Time is just gone 8:35 a.m. as we continue with news and views on this Friday morning, and it's time now to go across to India, and we're talking to Shaik Zakeer Hussain. We're talking about India. We're talking about Narendra Modi, who has dropped 12 senior ministers, and he's basically got a younger team of refurbishing his government. Shaik Zakeer, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. How are you doing, bro?
Shaik Zakeer, okay, we are, okay, I see, we see Shaik Zakeer has joined us. Assalamu alaikum, Jummah Mubarak to you, Shaik Zakeer. Once again, wonderful having you with us on the show.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. Jummah Mubarak to you as well as your audience. Jazakallah for calling.
Yes, now obviously at a very difficult time in India, and we find that the Modi government very, very unpredictable. And this latest development that has taken place in India, where he's dropped now 12 senior ministers, and now he's got a younger team. Now this includes the Minister of Health at a very difficult time when we know COVID-19 has created havoc in India. What do you think is the thinking of the Modi government behind this move?
Yeah, I mean, 12 senior ministers have been dropped, and 15 new ministers, many of them young, and 28 junior ministers were sworn in on Wednesday. This is, the first time there has been such a huge reshuffle since the Modi government took power in 2014. One of the main reasons is, of course, the way the government has handled the COVID-19 pandemic. It has been total chaos, and it's been a fiasco, last year and this year as well. So far, there have been more than 4 lakh people who have died because of COVID. Many of them because they couldn't find hospitals on time, they couldn't find essential oxygen cylinders on time. And there has been quite a lot of criticism, both in the country and outside the country as well, with all the international media slamming the government, the way it's been handling, and the indifference of the government, towards the victims. So this is one thing, and there has been, of course, the economy has been on the downside, and there has been other things as well. I mean, for example, the IT sector, the way the previous minister, Mr. Ravi Shankar Prasad, the way he was handling, and his public spat with some of the large companies operating in India, including Facebook and Twitter, and the way he was going after them. And the cases that were filed against the executives working at Twitter. There was definitely a need to reimagine the image of Mr. Modi. A cabinet reshuffle is usually seen as one of the tools available to a prime minister to re-establish his or her authority. Of course, nobody in the government itself was even remotely questioning Mr. Modi's authority. But there was dissatisfaction and anger among the common public, and there was need to, reconstitute this entire image. So that's the reason this reshuffle has been done, and it's also in a way to, put the entire, right from the time the COVID started or any kind of policy in India, Mr. Modi has been the poster boy of this, right? And anything that good happens, the entire credit usually goes to Mr. Modi. And now that there has been a fiasco in the way the government has handled it, it looks like the Modi government wants to put the blame on these ministers, and tell the public that it's not Mr. Modi, but it's these ministers who are not capable enough to handle the situation. So it's more of a public relations exercise than anything else.
Well, certainly, and I think you make a very good point when you're saying that, if things go right, all credit goes to Modi. When things go wrong, then you've got to find somebody else to blame. And in this case, it's been the ministers. And also, we know that Modi himself and Amit Shah have come under huge criticism in India in terms of how they basically managed and handled this pandemic, focusing a lot on the elections again. And it's about their popularity. But we know that they've lost obviously certain crucial elections in the process as well. So it's quite easy to point fingers at others and to park the blame. But at the end of the day, he is the man at the top, and the buck stops with Narendra Modi.
Absolutely. I mean, if we look at the first wave of coronavirus, Mr. Modi had publicly given 21 days of time for the virus to leave. That's what he had promised Indians, but it didn't happen. And this year in Jan, in the beginning of the year, this was just about the time when the second wave was hitting. He declared to the world that India was one of the countries which had conquered the coronavirus, and it was basically just something thing. And if you look at across India, the billboards across India, every advertisement of the government about coronavirus, every vaccination certificate, it has all Mr. Modi's photograph. But unfortunately, that when the second wave hit, the government was completely unprepared because it had already declared victory over coronavirus. And in fact, they had even allowed the Kumbh Mela to take place in the northern India, which had over 4 million people who descended in one place. And it was one of the reasons why the virus spread so rapidly, because all these people who had gathered there, many of them were affected by it, and they without any medical test, they just went back to the respective states that they had come from across India, and they spread the virus. And even after that, they didn't take any responsibility for it. And the hospital, even after the fiasco that happened last year, the government, the entire health system was an absolute. There was a collapse of the entire health system. Despite all this, like you rightly mentioned, the elections went on. There were rallies that were held, massive rallies, lakhs of people gathered in these rallies. Mr. Modi himself and Mr. Amit Shah and many of his top-ranking ministers were part of these rallies, and without taking care of any precautions, or without being careful of what the consequences of these kind of massive rallies would be. And also, even now, I mean, if you look at the reshuffle, even this has political overtones, because next year there is a crucial election in the state of Gujarat. In the state of Uttar Pradesh, which has been one of the worst hit states in India, for coronavirus. I mean, there were dead bodies floating in the river, on the banks of Ganges. And and the entire world media slammed the way the state government was handling it. So this is again an exercise to get confidence back into the government, basically assuring the people that we have a new set of people who will be taking care of things, and that's what it is. It's a PR exercise.
Well, certainly, and we know of the cliche, desperate times call for desperate measures, and it does appear that this is desperation on the part of Narendra Modi, considering his popularity he's been losing, but also interesting to see how this is going to be received by the public, and particularly those who have supported the BJP throughout the years.
There are two things that we need to keep in mind. One, the large number of people who support the BJP, it's because of the ideology that they share with the BJP. And despite the fiasco of the coronavirus, despite the absolute chaotic handling of the entire situation, people still believe in Mr. Modi and the politics that he represents, the ideology that he represents, and that's what you see. I mean, there has been no, of course, people have died, people are dissatisfied. But they're dissatisfied with the handling of the coronavirus, the pandemic, but they're not dissatisfied with Mr. Modi or his ideology itself. As long as Mr. Modi sticks to his Hindutva ideology, I think, I mean, from whatever my observation is and my studies has been, people will continue to support him, because that's what's been happening. I mean, time and again during elections. Mr. Modi and his party plays the Hindutva card. Now, I mean, for the past 1 or 2 months, there has been, cases of lynchings, cases of people Muslims being beaten up in the state of Uttar Pradesh just before the elections, and there has been cases filed against activists, against journalists who are critical of the policies of the Uttar Pradesh government. And people are absolutely. I mean, there has been no uproar against this. So I think as long as the BJP sticks to its Hindutva ideology, it will still find relevance in the public. People will still support it because most of the people who support Mr. Modi and his BJP government is because of the Hindutva ideology, and the governance is secondary for that.
Well, Sheikh Zakir, as always, Jazakallah khairan so much for your time. And
Thank you.
inshallah, we certainly look forward to these updates from time to time with you. But all the best to you for now. And Allah keep you safe as well, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
You're welcome. Walaikum assalam.
Shaik Zakeer Hussain joining us out of India with the Cognate this morning on the update on this latest development that is taking place in India. We come back. We've got Jummah Inspirations with Maulana Ahmed Mohammadi.